Tellico Village is a planned community located in Loudoun and Monroe Counties, Tennessee. It's a desirable, thriving community with high-quality amenities and services. The village is overseen by the Property Owners Association, Inc., POA, which is a nonprofit organization governed by a volunteer elected board of directors. The day-to-day management is vested in the POA Chief Executive Officer and staff. The POA board and staff are supported by a very active and knowledgeable committee infrastructure. Tellico Village Network is producing a series of videos on the various committees and the dedicated volunteers serving on them. Our segment today will focus on the Long Range Planning Advisory Committee, or Lrpac. I am your program host, Annette Schmidt, and I am with Phil Brenner, the committee chair of the Long Range Planning Advisory Committee. We will talk today about the committee, its structure, its function, and more importantly, its role in planning for the future of Tellico Village. Welcome to the studio, Phil. What exactly is the Lrpac?
That's quite a mouthful, isn't it, Annette? Thanks for having me. That's the Long Range Planning Advisory Committee. It's one of 9 all-volunteer committees established by the POA Board of Directors.
You told me that the Long Range Planning Committee is different. How so?
Well, most of the committees align with one of the POA departments and in fact report to some member of the POA staff. And they provide recommendations, review monthly results for their particular area of interest. For example, golf, recreation, finance, etc. But because long-range planning covers all departments, we report directly to the Board of Directors.
Okay, I understand the nuances. How is your committee selected and structured?
So we have 7 all-volunteer members. They're property owners. They serve 3-year terms, and they are appointed by the POA Board of Directors. When we have an opening, we conduct the existing members of the committee, interview candidates, and you can pick up a application package from the POA offices. We look through those application packages and interview those that are applying. We strive to get a good mix of different skills on the committee because we cross so many different functions. For example, in 2023, our committee includes people with backgrounds in IT, engineering, human resources, marketing, the military. We even have an attorney and some members who have served on the boards of other communities.
What is the focus of your committee, and said another way, what exactly do you do?
Right. So every one of the committees has a charter, and our charter has some specific elements that we're supposed to focus on. We're charged with looking 6 to 20 years into the future. We forecast growth and demographics. We study changing demographics and trends that are going on across the country. We survey property owner and member opinions. We benchmark other communities, and we develop a long-range strategic plan. And then finally, we provide data and input back to the POA Board of Directors.
Okay, so that's the elements of your committee. What are the goals?
So each year we establish a set of goals, and those are reviewed and approved by the POA Board of Directors. And then periodically throughout the year we will provide updates to the board on the status of our progress.
So how does the committee work?
The committee generally meets twice a month in workshop sessions, and those run from 2 to 4 hours each. And then each quarter we hold a public meeting so that we can give a readout and get feedback from the public on our work. Those quarterly meetings this year are the 4th Thursday of the month in January, April, July, and October. And we meet at 9 a.m. in the POA conference room.
What sort of outputs does your committee produce?
So in 2019, the committee produced and the board adopted a long-range strategic plan for the village. This year we'll be working on an update to that plan. The update will be based on the results of a village-wide survey that we did in 2021, some focus groups that we did in 2022, and some updated modeling and forecasting of the housing market and recent construction growth trends. We're very data-driven, so a lot of our work is collecting and analyzing data so that we can provide recommendations to the board based on facts. We'll also be working on a master land use plan this year to broadly outline the future potential uses of the land that's owned by the POA.
You've said your committee is very data-driven. What sort of data are you using?
Well, we start with secondary sources. So, for example, we start with age and population data from the U.S. Census Bureau. We're a retirement community, so it's important to know how many people are going to be retiring. Next, we turn to things like housing data from the National Association of Home Builders. And then we add secondary information such as a report that the Tellico Village marketing team did that looked at generational trends, and they looked at the differences between baby boomers, millennials, and Generation X. And those are going to be the future waves of people retiring and potentially moving to Tellico Village. And then finally, we get the current data from the POA operational results, so golf rounds, memberships at the rec center, etc., so we can track utilization of some of our amenities. So another thing, Annette, that the committee does is we make a pretty good use of technology. For example, video conferencing. Most of our workshops are conducted via video conference so that our committee members can participate from wherever they're at. And in fact, we even use video conferencing in our public meetings. In our most recent January public meeting, 2 of our members were in Florida on vacation, but they participated remotely via video conferencing. So that's just an example of the way we exercise technology in doing our jobs.
Here's a question for you, and it's probably going to come up on Nextdoor too. Can the villagers read the plan?
Sure, absolutely. So the plan is posted on Tellico Life, and if you go to Tellico Life, there's in the top navigation bar, there's a link for POA. If you click on that link, in the menu down below, there is a link that goes to the TV POA long range planning, and our plan is posted there. Survey results, focus group results, everything that we do is posted right there on Tellico Life.
A little bit of one-stop shopping.
It is, absolutely.
What would you say are some of the challenges of just doing long-range planning?
Well, certainly data, getting good data is a challenge. That's, sometimes it's really hard to get your hands on what are the facts. The other real challenge for planning is to think about the time horizon that we have to look at. We're looking at 6 to 20 years in the future, and that can be difficult at times. You've got to get your crystal ball out and really think about what's going to happen. So, if you think about things like who could have imagined COVID? Who would have imagined that inflation was going to be 9% last year? Or who could have thought that the Tenasseee Clubhouse was going to burn down? So long-range planning must anticipate the things that are probably going to happen, but it has to be flexible enough to react to things that you didn't think were going to happen.
Before we close, do you have one final thought about the value of long-range planning and your committee?
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts I have actually. One of the things about long-range planning is there's no instant gratification. The things that we work on are very far-reaching into the future. They may or may not ever happen. But the alternative to not having a plan is to fly blind. And I noticed the other day, Chet Pillsbury, our CEO, said that we have to plan for and build for the future. And that's what the Long-Range Planning Advisory Committee is all about.
To your point, as much as we can, look at a crystal ball, but I love that philosophy, plan to the future.
Right.
Well, it's great information, Phil, and let's plan to talk again as your committee progresses with this process.
Sure, absolutely. I'd like to come back after we report back to the board with our update on the plan and then come back and give you the highlights of that.
Thank you, Phil.
You bet.
Thank you for watching Tellico Village Network, your lens on what's happening in and around Tellico Village.